Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Kanishka Bedi and I extend my warm greetings to all of you from the United States of America where I am currently located. So today's webinar will focus upon managing modern supply chains. Before we start, I would like to just give you a brief introduction about myself. I am a professor of supply chain management, operations management, and project management at Global Next University. And it's a pleasure to welcome you all to this session. I would be running you through my slides for the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, while leaving the remaining time for question and answers. So, of course, the objective of the webinar is to look at some challenges which are faced by CXOs in managing modern supply chains, and also how important it is to align the supply chain with the strategy of the firm to derive maximum value. And of course, we would be looking at the context of a major organization which is sort of iconic in the field of supply chain management. So Walmart, as you all know, is the world giant in retailing. It is the world number one. And if you look at the history of Walmart, and we'll be shortly looking at various innovations it brought about in the field of supply chain management. So the first impression that you get when you enter a Walmart store is a feeling of enormous space under one roof, and the kind of variety of goods you get at very economical prices compared to any of its competitors. And this is exactly what I experienced when I visited Walmart for the very first time. And when you enter it, of course, there are trolleys, there are payment tills on one side, there's a service center, customer service center on one side. There are different departments, in that huge, enormous space inside. If you want to go and shop for electronics, there's a particular section. If you want to do shopping of grocery, there's a different section. You can buy toys, bicycles, furniture, whatnot. I mean, it's after all a departmental store, a super center, whatever you may like to call it. So you can get everything, and that is the speciality of Walmart. So there are certain differentiators of Walmart compared to its competitors. You cannot usually beat Walmart on pricing, the value it offers to the customers, the variety it provides, and of course the customer service. So we'll look at various aspects of Walmart's supply chain, and everybody has got his or her own stories to share about iconic brands like Walmart. And I have got my own little anecdote to share with you all today. And it's about a gift which I wanted to carry for my daughter in 2011 when I was visiting America. And I wanted to bring something unique for her, and she had specifically asked me for a laptop. So we were searching for a laptop. I wanted something special for my little girl, and therefore we went to various places like Target, Best Buy, Walmart, and we were roaming around, and we came across this special machine which was looking very beautiful, very unique. And it was different at that point in time because the designs, the flowers, the colorful designs and explicit, formatting, whatever was done by HP on this particular machine was very different. And at that time, Sony Vios with different flashy colors perhaps had just come in, and Dell was yet to actually introduce that flexi cover thing with different designs which you can just fix on the top of your laptop to change the design of your laptop from outside. But this one had the designs printed there on the cover itself and also alongside the keyboard. So it was a very exquisite and exclusive piece, especially for girls. And when I tried to find out somebody who could actually tell me about it, that person came and showed me the machine. Unfortunately, this person could not find the power cord. So we were perplexed. What's happening? Where is the power cord? Because we wanted to buy it then and there. Somehow the power cord was missing, and they said, okay, you can come tomorrow and we'll try to search out. Maybe the person in the second shift might know exactly where the power cord of this particular machine is. So, okay, we went back, and then we tried to go to some other Walmarts nearby and try to figure out if a similar machine is available. But unfortunately, nowhere the same machine was available. And this was also the last piece in that particular Walmart. So we went the next day after making a phone call, and the power cord was still not there. And with great difficulty, somehow, after a couple of days again, when we went, they could find the power cord. And then my sister, who was with me, she emphasized that since this is the last machine, a special discount of 20% could be given, which is normally given when there's a last item and something is to be discontinued in a particular store. So she was able to, negotiate about 20% of discount. This was amazing for me. And I went back to India with this machine for my daughter, who was absolutely ecstatic. And even today, that machine is working fine. And my daughter takes a lot of pride in showing to her friends what an exquisite piece of machine she has got. So I just shared this story with you to tell you that this machine of HP, which has got a light emitting from the back of the cover, just like the Apple laptops do, again a unique thing, which was not very common at that time with HP machines. So this HP machine, which is designed in the US, if you look at the back, it's a product of China. And by the way, most of the laptop machines that we have in the world today are either assembled in Taiwan or in China. Most of the components and parts are made in China. The designing most of the time of most of the products happens in the West, but wherever you go in any part of the world, be it Australia, the UK, US, China, of course, India, anywhere, stores are basically flooded with items which are manufactured in China. So in this story of mine, you would realize how global the supply chains are today. A product designed in the US or maybe in Germany would be manufactured with different components and parts somewhere in China. Assembling happens maybe in Taiwan, and then is distributed in different markets globally, including the Walmart. And there's a professor going to a Walmart in America, coming all the way from India, and buying a laptop machine manufactured in China in a Walmart in America and taking it back to India, his home country. So imagine different parts of the supply chain actually happening in different parts of the world. So the modern supply chains generally are global in nature in today's world. This was not so about 2 decades back, but a great change has taken place over the past 2-3 decades. So just to give you some more idea about the scale of operations of Walmart very quickly, you would realize that 245 million customers and members visit its nearly 11,000 stores. There are 20 71 banners in 27 countries, and there are e-commerce websites in 10 countries, and sales of 473 billion US dollars. And look at the kind of workforce they have. So it's absolutely gigantic organization. Now this man, Sam Walton, who founded this chain of enormous size, actually believed in certain values. And as you can see on this slide, he believed in the value of the dollar. And he wanted to keep prices below everybody else's. So he always kept a track of pricing of similar products in Kmart at that point in time, in Target and other rivals. And then he actually enforced certain rules on his own, and his rule of thumb was any trip expenses should not exceed 1% of the purchases. It meant sharing hotel rooms and walking instead of taking taxis. So imagine the kind of visionary he was and the kind of mission and strategy he formulated for Walmart, which is continuing even today. Now this gentleman reminds me of another gentleman by the name of J.R.D. Tata of the Tata Group in India. While reading his life history, somewhere I read that even J.R.D. used to wash his own clothes when traveling abroad out of India, just to save money, just to make sure that the Indian rupees are not spent in terms of foreign currency. So imagine a French national, which J.R.D. was, washing clothes on his own, not using the hotel laundry facility. So there are people of that sort. And in current times, another example which comes to mind is that of Mr. Azim Premji of Wipro Group. And people have seen him traveling in Mumbai in that common black and yellow cab frequently. So another prime example of people and leaders living a life of this sort despite other people, other CEOs who are very flamboyant. Now, if we look at the merchandising of Walmart, Walton believed in the value of the dollar and was obsessed with keeping prices below everybody else. That was a prime philosophy, and that's why there were concepts like everyday low prices, which were, formulated as a strategy by the company. And even today, you will find a corner within a Walmart where they would be displaying items as is shown in this particular image, which are lowest in terms of prices compared to any competitors, any other departmental store or supercenter nearby. Another policy which is quite innovative, and it was actually started by Walmart in America, is satisfaction guarantee. That means if you're not satisfied with any product that you purchase from Walmart, you can return it within a period of 90 days. No questions asked. You have to just bring in the receipt, and you have to have the packaging of that particular item. And if it is not electronics, because for electronics they have 15 days return policy, but for all other items it is 90 days. So they started this concept. In the supply chain context, when you talk about all these items which are returned by the customers, you talk about actually a lot of reverse logistics, which is not easy to manage, especially when you have products coming all the way from China or India or elsewhere, returning all the way down to that end of the supply chain can be very cumbersome, very costly also. Despite that, Walmart absorbs all that cost to provide exemplary experience, shopping experience to its customers. Now, that concept has been actually extended by other retailers like Macy's or JC Penney's, who have now return policy till 6 months. So even I have tried out that. I've on one of my during one of my visits to America, I bought something for my mom, and when I had presented her, it did not fit her properly. So I had to bring it back after a couple of months to America and return it to Macy's, and they did not ask any questions. So these things are very common in America now. Not sure if there are retailers in India doing that as of now, but gradually that will pick up, and especially all these online stores, they provide that convenience, that level of flexibility to their customers. However, there's a lot of reverse logistics involved with it. Now, store operations. This just to give you an idea of what kind of automation Walmart was embarking upon way back in the 1980s. So it has the installation of a satellite system so that the distribution centers of Walmart and the stores and the headquarters, everything and suppliers could be integrated to point of sale information and how merchandise was actually moving, across the supply chain. So that gave an idea to the managers if there is some item which is moving very slowly, is losing its appeal amongst customers, they should not stock it too much. They should try to get rid of the inventory by deep discounting maybe sometimes, just to get rid of that inventory because it's not moving that quickly as expected. So you can better utilize your space inside the store in a big way if you have that kind of an automation. And I'm talking about 1980s when the computer systems were just evolving in commercial usage. And here we are talking about kind of networking through satellite done by Walmart. Now, in terms of distribution, they follow a two-step hub and spoke distribution network. So what happens is a Walmart truck brings merchandise to a distribution center from various vendors. It takes supplies, and then there is sorting done at the distribution center, and then these are delivered. Items are delivered to Walmart stores through different trucks. So the replenishment system basically originates at the point of sale. So the scanners which are being used continuously at the payment tills are gathering all the information of customer preferences, what is selling, what is not, in what quantities, at what price, and stuff like that. Whole data is getting compiled in these computer machines. Forecasting is done on a real-time basis, and suppliers and vendors and whole supply chain is also interconnected, linked. They can see what's happening real time in Walmart stores, and accordingly they plan their own inventories, their own production, and stuff like that. So all this is very helpful in making sure that the wastages, the muda as they call in Japanese, is eliminated at different points in the supply chain. And by the way, just to remind you all that the famed JIT production system of Toyota actually was innovated by Taichi Ohno, the then vice president of Toyota, after visiting a Walmart store. So the way the empty stacks in the racks were promptly replenished by Walmart prompted Ohno to think about how the assembly lines of Toyota could be replenished quickly with parts and components so that the Toyota assembly lines can move continuously without any stoppages. So that was the birth of GIT production system. Now, another innovation which happened in Walmart much earlier, and now it is quite common, we often hear about cross-docking. And it's a concept in which products are transferred directly from inbound vehicles to store-bound vehicles. That means in place of unloading a truck which is coming from vendors at a distribution center where the sorting happens, in place of doing that, you create a facility which is a cross-dock, and there itself in the open area, you take down the bundles, the packets, you look at the requirements of different stores, and repackage those products in those quantities required by different stores, and load to the other trucks which are about to depart to the store. So basically, what you are doing is that you are not storing any inventory in the distribution center at all. So you're using the cross dock to actually unload, repackage, and load onto other trucks which are going to the stores, so that directly these items are carried to the store. Just to give you another example of cross-docking in the GIT context, you must be knowing there is a facility of Toyota Motor, Kirloskar Toyota Motor Company at Bidadi near Bangalore in south of India, and they use this cross-docking facility for components and parts which they get every day, all the way from North India at Gurgaon. So the cross-docking facility at Gurgaon, and they do the milk runs from various vendors in the Gurgaon area, various trucks, small vans, they pick up various supplies, components, parts from all over Gurgaon. And then there's a huge truck which is waiting early in the morning, 5 o'clock, just waiting to leave for Bangalore, Bidadi. And after doing all these milk runs, these small vans and trucks go, and then all these items are loaded onto the big truck at that cross-dock facility. And then that truck starts early in the morning at 5. And by the way, it takes about 5 days for that truck to reach Bangalore, all the way from Delhi. So during these 5 days, the Toyota factory is actually not waiting, because it's just in time. So what happens is, every day in the morning, that huge truck would be departing. One huge truck would be departing from the cross-dock facility in Gurgaon, so that it reaches after 5 days in Bangalore, Bidadi. So when every day a huge truck is actually departing from cross-dock in Gurgaon, so every day morning, actually a truck would be landing at Bidadi factory, where these items and components are offloaded, directly taken to the assembly line, and by the end of the day of production, everything is over. No inventory, minimal inventory. When we say no inventory in JIC, it is what we say the optimal or minimal inventory. So that's an example of cross-docking which has been innovated by Walmart, but utilized to the hilt by companies like Toyota practicing JIC. There's an announcement which I have been instructed to share with you. There was some confusion in the invitation, so the Tech Mahindra folks are requested to kindly join the other webinar instead. So Tech Mahindra folks, if you are there and listening to my announcement, please join the other webinar, not this one. Perhaps there is a professor there waiting for you. Leadership Essentials by Dr. Bullet. Okay, no problem, Shikha. Thanks for this reminder. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation and let's talk about logistics very quickly. Logistics at Walmart. Now, there are many stores, nearby. In Walmart network of stores, they make a Walmart maybe after say every 10 miles or 20 miles, Now they are actually increasing the number of stores, particularly in America, up to that, extent that there's a likelihood that there would be 2 or 3 Walmarts within 20-mile radius. And that way, in a particular county, for example, there are several of them, So if there's a truck, it can actually go, make one trip and supply to many of these stores in one trip itself. Then, while returning back, it will not come back empty. Actually, all the reverse logistics items which were returned by the customers, not like I did not like this did not fit in very snugly, so I don't want it. All those items, some of them broken, some of them, in the open packet, all those returned merchandise it collects. And then most of the vendors, they have realized that it's a good idea to open their warehouses very close to Walmart facilities, the Walmart supercenters or stores or distribution centers. So on their way back, the trucks, they actually start picking new shipments also from these vendors. So there's maximum utilization of full truckload, preferably, if not as much as possible, even while returning, while making a return trip to a distribution center. And by the way, many of the Walmart trucks are becoming environmental friendly. Many of them are electric vehicles. So there's a lot of emphasis, particularly in the West, about this. That there's a lot of pollution because of all these Walmarts and Carrefour and Target trucks moving around. So that's why they have become much more conscious about CSR. Now, the concept of vendor-managed inventory, which is commonplace today and has become a permanent jargon of supply chain management, it was again an innovation by Walmart. And way back in the late 1980s. So they selected key suppliers, including Wrangler and GE, and these are using vendor-managed inventory systems to replenish stocks in Walmart stores and warehouses. So basically, they are assigned a particular space, a particular number of racks inside the store. Okay, this is your space, you have to manage it. We want this much of return on investment on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. So you are responsible for bringing in sufficient inventory, replacing the inventory, bringing in more models of items, new fashion apparels, whatever you want, but you have to make sure that the racks are not empty, the customers are getting whatever they want, and that particular part of the space inside the store is directly managed by these vendors. And then in 1990s, early, they created a retail link which gave more than 2,000 vendors computer access to point of sale data. So that was a starting point. Imagine 25 years ago, approximately this is what Walmart was doing. Of course, this makes a lot of sense in today's times when we talk about ERP systems and connections with suppliers, having point of sale data. It seems as if concepts and issues like bullwhip effect, they should disappear. Unfortunately, despite all the innovation, all the IT, many companies are still not able to take care of that kind of issue. So there are inventories and there are escalation and exaggeration of forecasts available across the supply chain even today. Supplier diversity. As you can see here in financial year ending 14, Walmart spent approximately $12.9 billion with women and minority-owned businesses. So they are basically trying to make sure that they are benefiting every business community as such. They want to make it a very diverse thing because they understand that they are basically global players. So they have to include all sections of the society in their operations and the supply chain. So you can see about $10 billion in direct spending and about $3 billion in second tier spending. So they're not only taking care of involving vendors, the first tier vendors, but also the second tier vendors. They're trying to make sure are diverse and belonging to different business groups. Now, having seen the kind of innovations what they have done, and they are number one worldwide even today, and in the near future also, there's no real competition coming ahead, despite the fact there are some setbacks which have been experienced in supply chain management terms by this behemoth in countries like India, China, and Mexico. Very quickly, I would like to remind you that in India, they had a joint venture. They started in 2007 with the Bharti Group, Sunil Mittal Group. Of course, their flagship enterprise is Airtel, but they ventured into retail by tying up with Walmart. And at that time, the government of India was not allowing 100% foreign direct investment by foreign players like Walmart, so they had to tie up. And then there was a restriction that you cannot go into multi-brand retail directly to the customers, the consumers. So what they decided upon a 49-51% model of joint venture. They tied up with Bharti, and they targeted a different segment altogether, sort of distribution centers, what they have in America. So they created these best priced modern wholesale stores, initially in Punjab, because Bharti Group actually started from there, from Punjab, from Ludhiana. So, of course, that is a favorite choice for new ventures for Sunil Mittal. So he started from there, and I think 20 odd stores they opened over a period of a couple of years. And I think in 2013, that joint venture had to be winded up, primarily because of some allegations that Walmart executives had indulged in some bribing of government officials. Investigations are on. Even Walmart is trying to investigate. And then the policies of the government of India, which were, of course, with the new BJP government, coming into power with a majority, the plans of major retail chains like Walmart as well as Carrefour went haywire, and Carrefour has completely pulled out of India. Walmart is still continuing on its own, so it has bought the stake of Bharti. And let's see what happens. But the future is not great for Walmart in India. So they could not actually go full steam in India because of political reasons and government policies. However, in China, they faced a different scenario altogether. Walmart in China ventured about, I think, 10, 15 years back in China, and still they are in red. They could not create the same supply chain magic in China because of a different style of functioning of the government there. Different provinces have different ways of dealing with government executives, and government policies in different states of China are different. Carrefour has done much better in China, and it is very profitable compared to Walmart, which is in red. So that's a prime example of failure of Walmart in recreating the same supply chain magic as it had done in the US and other markets. So the local dynamics are difficult to create. Let's understand that it's not easy to deal with various vendors in a particular country, and the infrastructure may be different, and the way of dealing with government policies may be different. And the French giant Carrefour, their executives were actually quite agile in working closely with provincial Chinese officials in taking approvals very quickly and making sure any hassles in approvals coming in the way of supply chain are removed as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, Walmart did not do that. Again, in Mexico, they are facing allegations of corruption, which is quite unfortunate. And of course, they would like to clarify and come out in the open with any findings. But unfortunately, in all these developing and growing markets, Walmart unfortunately could not do well. There are different reasons, as I explained, and then there is competition coming in different forms, and the local competition at times can be also equally daunting. For example, in China, even the local chains of retailers have actually done very well against Walmart, very close to where Walmart stores are located. So people do visit Walmart, but actually buy from a local Chinese retail store. So that's a typical scenario there. And I'll focus the remaining part of the presentation on that local flavor, just to give you an idea exactly how things are being done locally in some countries. Now, this name Big Bazaar is today synonymous with its founder, Kishore Biani, who is a Marwari businessman hailing from Kolkata. He was known for Pantaloon earlier, but now he is known as the father of retail. in India by virtue of having created this particular chain of retail business called Big Bazaar. And then another chain which is more closer to Walmart uh, is Central, again owned by Kishore Biani and Pantaloon and so on. But Big Bazaar is a different concept. Now, I would like to emphasize here that it would have been much easier for anybody in India to actually try to imitate the concept of Walmart. That comes much more easily to many people. Why not do what is successful already in the West? That's easy to replicate. But Biani chose a different route, and the supply chain that he has created is very different from what we just discussed about Walmart. And we would like to just see the facets of the traditional supply chain which Big Bazaar utilized. So one very striking difference is the bazaar layout, which is crowded, literally, especially when they go for some promotional campaigns. Like currently, I saw an ad just now, 5 days of some sale going on, and they come up with some very unique concepts. They bring in your old tires and utensils and old apparels from the home, the used ones, and they buy the whole stuff outside the store, and they give you a coupon. You go inside the store and you can redeem that voucher, but there's a catch there. You have to buy maybe $1,000 of items inside if you have to use the vouchers for $200. I mean, ultimately the customer ends up spending much more. So that is the idea. So the idea of bazaar layout is Biani felt that Indians typically have a mindset of going to a crowded market. Things are falling down here and there. People literally overstepping on others' feet. That kind of experience. And according to him, when you go to that kind of a market, you realize as if there's some attraction. Perhaps something is being sold at throwaway prices, and that's why there's huge crowd. So one feeling that comes to Indians much easily is if there's a crowd somewhere, something is real good, or there's a good bargain out there. So that is the bazaar concept, which he very aptly replicated in his stores. So in complete contrast to Walmart stores, he created stores which are very congested. Basically, these are of course much big compared to the kirana stores that Indians were used to going to about 2 decades back. But still, compared to Walmarts and Costco's and Macy's and Targets, the Big Bazaar stores are much smaller and much congested. The way racks are organized, the payment tails are organized, everything is very compact. Just to give Indians an experience of crowd, a feeling of crowd. And also to create a mindset amongst Indians that actually at this kind of huge stores, you can get the items at much discounted prices. Contrary to the perception at that point in time that Kirana stores, by virtue of their small operations, can offer much better prices for goods. So he had to actually transform the whole mindset that actually these huge stores, the big bazaars, they buy in bulk from different vendors and manufacturers, and that's why they are in a position to buy those items at much better prices, and then subsequently offer very economical prices to their customers. So it was, of course, not an easy story for Kishore Bihani, but as is history now, he was very successful in transforming that mindset. So what he did exclusive tie-ups with manufacturers. So that's something he realized that, of course, he would bring in the economies of scale. So one was to tie up with the manufacturers. So at that point in time, I'm talking about 10, 15 years back, when a bare jeans was costing 695 rupees and a Newport jean costed 599, Big Bazaar contacted Adin Mills to know whether they can provide jeans for rupees 299 per piece. if it bought 1 lakh pieces per month. And of course, it's history now that Rough and Tough brand was born as a result of this negotiation, which was huge success. Similarly, with some manufacturers, Biani and of course with Bazaar executives, they said, okay, we will be buying this much volume for white shirts. So if we are buying, say, 1 lakh white shirts per month, would you be able to offer us at this particular price? Some manufacturers agree. And that was, again, the basic concept of leveraging economies of scale. Now, the food bazaar concept, which is a grocery store inside many of the big bazaar stores and as a standalone store as well, he pioneered the concept of farm to plate. And Biani understood this very well that Indians have a different food habit actually. They want fresh food all the time. They cook food at home and they want fresh vegetables. And this is in complete contrast to the concept of Walmart in America, where people are used to consuming frozen food. If something is not available, veggies are not available, that's fine. I mean, and that's why there's a problem of obesity in America, and it's quite rampant here. So, in complete contrast, Biani understood the psyche of the Indians, and that's why he said, why not bring in the farm close to my stores, the food bazaars? So in Ahmedabad, for example, he has a full-fledged dairy right across Big Bazaar store, and that dairy is actually used to create paneer and makhan and other stuff, the milk products, right then and there, and that is supplied directly to the store. Similarly, in many of the stores in North India, there's an atta chakki which is installed inside the store just to prepare the flour right then and there before the customers when they order for atta, rather than supplying the ready-made atta of various brands. So that was again an innovation. And in South India, for example, in Bangalore, many of the big bazaar stores have the same chakki preparing that mix for making idlis or dosas, and that's quite successful. Then the concept of in-house labels, which is again amazing concept, a catch-up which has been created by Big Bazaar by using its own manufacturing facility somewhere is being sold at, for example, rupees 38, and the nearest branded rival is selling the same stuff, the same quantity at rupees 58. And that's why 60% of the shelf space today is constituted by in-house brands in Big Bazaar. So a lot of backward integration has been done very successfully, and people are getting actually accustomed to using these in-house brands of Big Bazaar when they come for shopping there. So it's amazing the way these in-house brands have been cultivated. One striking difference of Big Bazaar in terms of supply chain is the use of the traditional supply chain. Because as you will understand, creating an exclusive supply chain for a retail chain, just like Walmart or Carrefour, is highly capital intensive. And it takes time to create that and maintain that infrastructure. It's very expensive. That adds on to the overall cost. And maybe, I mean, this is still an experiment now because all these major chains like Walmart and Carrefour, they are stopping their plants in India. But it would have been really wonderful to see how these big would have countered this particular threat from the Big Bazaar using the traditional supply chain. So in a traditional supply chain, distributors play a major role, as we all know. They have some wafer thin margins, but they're using some of their family-owned warehouses. Some family members are involved, in their operations, and then the transportation facilities maybe that paddle human rickshaw, which can be used for transferring goods from the distribution center, the family-owned distribution center, to the Big Bazaar. However, there are risks also. During promotional offers, when all these big bazaar stores are experiencing huge demand for a particular item, at that point in time, there's a risk of the supply chain breakdown because these small distributors may not be having the capacity to handle the huge volumes of sales at Big Bazaar. So there are risks, no doubt about it. But how well Big Bazaar can manage those risks by building some buffer inventories before promotional periods, that is marvelous the way they do it, and they have been successful in doing that so far. Now, the latest challenges which they are about to face are related to these online stores. Now, Big Bazaar, for example, has got futurebazaar.com, its online arm, as you may say. And Walmart itself has its online portal, walmart.com. And by the way, in Silicon Valley in California, if you talk to the IT folks, they would say that the highest salaries are being paid today not by Google or Apple or Cisco, but by Walmart.com because they have a huge IT development center here, and Walmart.com is hiring IT professionals to beef up their online portal all the time, and they are bringing in a lot of innovations there. However, in India, Amazon.in, which has started its operations recently, is of course a major threat to the likes of Big Bazaar. And they have their own distribution network. So when Amazon started, they also started by using distribution centers of other players, but they realized very soon that actually that does not allow them the kind of flexibility and speed they require. So they have to create their own distribution centers. So Amazon is actually a specialist in creating gigantic distribution centers which are highly automated, very less human workforce, and everything is automated from the order receiving to how that particular order, picks up an item from a rack inside the distribution center, and there are moving conveyors on the conveyor belt, how automatically that item drops and how labeling is done and how scanning happens automatically. Huge infrastructure. So of course they would be coming. They have come to India with all those plans in place. And then Flipkart.com, another homegrown rival, and then Snapdeal.com, the Mittal brothers, who worked for Amazon earlier, they are trying to create magic in India in terms of online retailing. So they are definitely a threat, and they would try to create their own unique supply chain to pose competition to the likes of Big Bazaar. And Walmart is no exception. Of course, they understand this very well, and that's why they are beefing up their infrastructure. Okay, so I'll just give you an idea about what we do at Global Next University. It's an online university, very unique, and it has its lineage from U21 Global Graduate School, Singapore, which was created by several universities worldwide together. And of course, we take a lot of pride in saying that we were able to gather students from 80 odd countries. It's a truly global institution. And of course, in terms of supply chain management, we offer a professional development award, PDA, comprising of these different modules, as you can see. Defining supply chain management, logistics, customer focus, procurement and manufacturing, supply chain information needs and ERP, and managing the supply chain. So what are the coordination problems? How supply chain should be aligned to the strategy? What are the issues in terms of managing logistics? A lot of things. And the best thing is that we offer a lot of flexibility in the offering of these courses, which are facilitated by our global faculty. All of them are PhD qualified, having decades of experience in academia as well as corporations. And most importantly, they are quite accustomed to teaching online for the past many decades. We have been offering corporate programs to various corporations, and this list is only indicative, not comprehensive, but you can see all the key names there. So basically, our programs are highly customized. We can look at the kind of industry you are operating in. We can bring in those kinds of case studies, discussion topics, assignment topics. We can bring in special topics and articles to address some specific needs of corporations. And then we are delivering our programs globally. So by virtue of being online, you can be anywhere as long as you have the internet connection. You can access our online content 24 into 7 into 365. That's not an issue at all. You can discuss on the discussion board along with the professors and peers on various topics related to supply chain management. And we are truly flexible because we don't assign a particular time. Generally, just like to attend a webinar, for example, we have our pedagogy more focused on asynchronous discussions on the discussion board. So we basically create high impact programs to deliver on certain learning outcomes for corporations according to their specific needs. So thank you everybody from Global Next University, and I would welcome any questions from your side now. Over to you, Shweta.
If you have any questions, you can just type it in the chat window, and Dr. Bedi will answer them for you. Dr. Bedi, thanks so much for being with us. I know it's really late. Dr. Bedi is actually based in the US. This is 12 in the night, 12 midnight for him, or later than that. So thanks so much for being with us.
Most welcome, Shweta. I can see one question from Sastri. Can we have some examples like bulk chemicals, carriers and traders, food trade chemicals? I believe, Sastri, you work in that industry. That's why this question. When we talk about chemicals, of course, there are issues in relation to what type of chemicals these are. If these are toxic chemicals, there are some government regulations for transportation, for production, the kind of emissions which happen from the factory. So all those restrictions have to be taken care of. And then I have actually worked with a lot of industries and companies in India in petrochemicals. So, for example, Indian Oil Corporation Limited and HPCL and others, BPCL. So they normally share a lot of issues of pilferage, during transportation, which happens in India when the crude or refined oil is transported from one location to the other. Even at the petrol bunks, some sort of adulteration happens, and that's an issue in India for sure. Because while dealing and providing consultancy to the various organizations of this sort, I came to know that actually that is more of a norm than exception in India. So they actually in their accounting systems they make sure that of course all this is not highlighted. They as organizations they try to take care of all these issues from their own angle. And one particular example of tackling this issue in the petrochemical industry I would like to share with you is that of BPCL, which have this Pure for Sure campaign, which was very successful about 10-15 years back. And they provided testing of petroleum to customers right there at the petrol pump, some facilities like some filter paper or something of that. So just to create that impression that you get the purest fuel at those locations. However, I would like to submit here that this particular issue, of course, needs much more introspection by all these companies and all associated parties because still that's quite rampant. Uh, yes, Anna, I can see your question now. Can you please talk more about supplier measurement on Walmart? Now, uh, Walmart is one of the retailers, of course, being the world number one, they are quite picky and choosy, no doubt about it. So they have measurement systems in place. They evaluate suppliers' performance all the time in terms of how well they have kept the delivery time schedules, what is the quality of the product they have sent, and everything is actually in black and white. So the yearly measurements that they make, the evaluations of suppliers, and nowadays many of these vendors are located there in China. And in fact, sometimes some wrongdoings of these suppliers sitting there in developing nations like China, India, Bangladesh can ruin the fortunes of a company like Walmart. Recently, I'll just give you an example. The Yum brand of the Yum Inc. Incorporated, which is owning brands like KFC and Pizza Hut in China, they are in a soup these days because some of the suppliers were videotaped, and these were the suppliers of raw meat. And the way they were using some rotten meat uh, as deliveries to these chains like KFC, Pizza Hut, and I believe it was Domino's Pizza or something. McDonald's actually, yes. So McDonald's as well as the Yum Incorporated, which owns KFC and Pizza Hut, they are literally uh, uh, facing, a very hard time in China today because of this very reason that actually they could not take care of some compliance from these suppliers of meat in China. So the problem happens when you are dealing with thousands of suppliers scattered in different uh, parts of the globe, and you have to make sure that there are evaluation procedures, inspection procedures in place. The way you do it, say in developed nations, it sometimes becomes very difficult to replicate all those systems in developing nations. So of course, this is a great issue. Thanks for this a good question, Anna.
Dr. Bedi, there's some questions under the Q&A tab.
Can you read out them for me, Shweta?
So Ajit Kumar says, what is wastage Big Bazaar is encountering to calculate final profit? What is the wastage that Big Bazaar is encountering?
The wastage. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just look at some of the tabs here. Okay. See, then I'm not getting the question exactly, and Shweta is talking about wastages, how Big Bazaar is tackling the wastages. Maybe you are talking about some products which expire and become out of date. Perhaps you are talking about them, or maybe wastages in terms of breakages which happen in transportation. There are various types of wastages possible in a supply chain, and of course they have to write off some of the items. And uh, of course, during transportation delays, that can be another form of muda or wastage. When your delivery truck is not reaching on time, and some of your stores are waiting for items to arrive, customers are going back disappointed. That's a waste, absolutely. So of course, that is something which is common to all retailers or all organizations dealing with the supply chain. So they have to make sure that the muda of various forms can be minimized, and there are different ways of doing that. So where exactly that waste component is lying, and managers have to actually uh, do a lot of analysis, flow charting, various tools have to be utilized to figure out where exactly some wastage is happening in terms of material, in terms of obsolescence, in terms of delays, and how that can be eliminated. So it has to be done on a case-to-case basis.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Bedi. There's some people who want to ask the question. I'll just I'll unmute them briefly. We have Sanjay Pandit. Sanjay Pandit, I'll just unmute you right now. And
Actually, I can't hear a question come in from Mr. Pandit. So I would read the question of Rahul in the meantime, Rahul Sambal. And he is asking, how can everyday low price work in an Indian context where we are a dependent economy? What is the guarantee that what works abroad can work in India too? Uh, I would answer the first part of your question about everyday low price model. If you look at Walmart, there are items that they stack under everyday low price, and it's a decision of the store manager basically, and they do some surveys of nearby competitors. So within the vicinity of a particular Walmart store, it is a responsibility of the store manager to go and conduct some surveys himself or through subordinates to make an idea of a particular item, at what price that item is being sold by a TJ Maxx or by a Target, by a CVS pharmacy, for example, and then make a decision what will be the lower price than all the competitors in the near vicinity. So that's how they fix that particular price. That price may be actually higher than maybe a Walmart in some other region, or maybe lower than a Walmart in another region. So it's a localized decision making which is done by the store manager at a particular location. So that's the everyday low prices. So that's how they make sure that in the near vicinity there's no place where a customer can buy that product at a lower price than what Walmart is selling at. And as you said, India is a dependent economy. I think it's a dependent world altogether these days, apart from North Korea. Rahul, I think all countries are dependent upon each other. So I don't think India is an exception here, because if something goes wrong anywhere in the world, almost every country gets impacted. And there are some isolated countries like Iraq or North Korea and maybe now Russia who are not impacted by that. And there's no guarantee that what works abroad can work in India too, that's for sure. But most of the time it works actually, Rahul. It has been seen that all the innovations which happen in America and in the West, many of them have those concepts have worked in developing nations. Because somehow, particularly in this network world, people start getting to know about new things happening abroad very easily. So even when Amazon was not having operations in India, people in India actually knew, and literally they were waiting for Amazon.com to start operations in India. Until the time Amazon was not taking that decision, there were local players like Flipkart and Snapdeal who were trying to, take routes during that time. So, of course, that's a lost opportunity for Amazon.com to take that long to come to India. That's why the franchisee thing worked very quickly. If you have to spread like fire all across the globe, follow the McDonald's model.